Hi everyone, so here's your lesson for Monday, May 18th. And today we're going to talk about using algebra with quadratics. So, the last couple days we looked at quadratic graphs. Remember, they either have a shape of a U or they look like the opposite way, like a mountain. Okay, so just as a quick review, let's identify a couple things. First off, axis of symmetry, okay, is the line that goes through the vertex and divides the parabola into two equal sides. So here's our axis of symmetry. The roots, or the solutions, or the zeros, or the x-intercepts, all the same word, all the same phrase, is where the graph crosses the x-axis. Okay, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. And the vertex is the very minimum or the very maximum of the parabola. And in this case, it's actually the same as the y-intercept. It's not always the same, but in this one it is. Okay? And is the leading coefficient positive or negative? Well, since this has a minimum value, it has a minimum, we know that the leading coefficient is negative. Okay, and just to review, the standard form of a quadratic function looks like ax squared plus bx plus c, and sometimes you'll even see it has an f of x in front of it. That's common. And the axis of symmetry formula, okay, which we learned last lesson, is x equals negative b over 2a. We use that formula to find the axis of symmetry if we're not looking at a graph. So today, and that's going to come in handy today because we're not going to look at any graphs. We're going to figure out what the roots, the axis of symmetry, and the vertex is just based on the formula, the equation, okay, using algebra, not looking at any graphs. So, number one, given the quadratic equation, we're going to find, let's start with the roots. Okay, we're going to start with the roots. So, and I'll do this in red. In order to find the roots, okay, we actually have to use our factoring skills from last unit. Okay, so I'm going to completely factor x squared plus 6x minus 40. Okay, remember, think back to factoring. When I see something that's a trinomial that has three terms, I use the AC factoring method. Okay? So I have my A equals, my B equals, and my C equals. My A equals 1, my B equals 6, and my C is negative 40. So A times C is 1 times negative 40, which just equals negative 40. My B is positive 6. Now remember, when my AC is negative, okay, we know that we have different signs. So I'm going to start to set my parentheses up. Different signs. And I know that they're different, so the bigger number is going to be positive. So I'm going to put big here, because we know the bigger number is going to go there. So now I fill in my first spots. I take my first term, x squared. I know that x times x is x squared, so I have x and x. Now I take my AC, which is 40. The sign doesn't matter, and I list out the factors of 40. I have 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, and 5 and 8. Okay, if you didn't know that, again, you can type into GeoGebra 40 divided by x and look at the whole number factors. So now, my signs are different. I have positive and negative. So different signs means we subtract. So we want a difference of whatever my B value is. My B is 6. So which pair here gives me a difference of 6? 40 minus 1? No. 20 minus 2 is 18. 10 minus 4? That's 6. So I know my bigger number goes here, so my 10 goes here, and my 4 goes here. Now, in order to find the roots, okay, remember we're finding the roots, I actually need to treat these like two separate equations, and I'm going to solve for x. So I have x plus 10 equals 0. We set them equal to 0. X minus 4 equals 0. And I solve them separately. So the first one here, x plus 10 equals 0. I have to get rid of the x, or get rid of 10 to get the x by itself. So I subtract 10 from both sides of the equation. And I have, my 10's cancel out, x equals negative 10. That's one root. I do the other side. Plus 4, plus 4. Okay, my 4's cancel out. I'm left with x equals positive 4. That's my other root. So here are my roots. X equals negative 10 and x equals 4. Axis of symmetry. I'm going to use my formula. Okay, my x equals negative b over 2a. Now from before, I already know my b is 6 and my a is 1. So I'm just going to plug in. Okay, negative 6 over 2 times 1. So negative 6, 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 6 divided by 2 gives me negative 3. So my axis of symmetry, my x is negative 3. And finally, my vertex. Okay, is it a max or a min value? Well, remember, when I'm looking at a graph, let's go back for a second. Okay, oops, cancel. When I am looking at a graph, the vertex is always going to either be the minimum or the maximum point. Okay? The axis of symmetry always goes straight across the vertex. So I know the x value of my vertex is negative 3 because my axis of symmetry is negative 3. The x equals negative 3. So what I need to find is my y value. Okay? I know that it's a minimum, okay, meaning the graph looks like this, because my leading coefficient is positive. Now let's find the y value. Okay, I need to know the point. Negative 3 what? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my original equation, f of x equals x squared plus 6x minus 40, and I'm going to take my negative 3 and plug it in for all the x values. So now I have f of negative 3 equals negative 3 in parentheses squared plus 6 times negative 3 minus 40. And you can plug that all into GeoGebra. Just make sure you use parentheses. Okay? So, negative 3 squared gives me 9. 6 times negative 3 gives me negative 18. Minus 40. 9 minus 18 minus 40 gives me negative 49. So my vertex is negative 3, negative 49. That's the point of the vertex, okay, as a point. The axis of symmetry gives us half the answer, okay? It gives us the x value. But we always need, when we find the vertex, we also need the y value. Okay, one more and then we're done for today, guys. We're going to do the same thing. Okay, given the quadratic equation, find the roots. So let's do the roots. Okay, it's a trinomial, so we're going to do AC factoring. My A equals 1, my B equals negative 10, and my C equals negative 24. A times C is 1 times negative 24, which just gives me negative 24. Okay, since it's negative, that already tells me that I'm going to have different signs. So different signs here in the parentheses. Positive, negative. My B value is negative 10. So since they're different signs in the parentheses already, I know the bigger number is going to be negative. So the bigger number is going to go in this spot. Now I got to figure out what to put in there. I take my first term, my x squared, and I know x squared is x times x. So I have x and x. Now I take my AC, which is 24, and I write out the factors. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, and that's it. And I ask myself, since my signs are different, I have positive and negative, okay, different signs means different, we subtract. Difference, we subtract. So difference of my V value is 10. So which two numbers, when I subtract them, give me 10? 24 minus 1 is 23. 12 minus 2, that's 10. So I know my bigger number goes here already, and my other number is going to go in the second spot. Okay, now to finish it up, I got to find the roots. This is the part that's different. Okay, I take parentheses and I split them apart. I set them separately equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. Solve for x. I subtract 2. Subtract 2. I have x equals negative 2. So one of my roots is x equals negative 2. On the other side, I have x minus 12 equals 0. Okay, and I solve for x. Plus 12, plus 12. 12's cancel. I'm left with x equals 12. So there's my other root. Okay, so this line is crossing the x-axis at negative 2 and positive 12. That's what that means. Okay, my axis of symmetry. Remember my axis of symmetry formula is x equals negative b over 2a. Okay, my b is negative 10. So be careful with this. I have negative 10 over 2 times my a is 1. So negative negative turns into positive. 2 times 1 is 2. 10 divided by 2 gives me 5. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 5. Now remember, the axis of symmetry gives us one piece of the vertex already. So when we're looking for the vertex, I already know my x value is 5. Okay, is it a maximum or a minimum? Well, the first term here is positive. So if it's positive, we have a minimum, right? Positive, if the leading coefficient is positive, it means we have a minimum value. Now let's find out what the y value is. We need the other coordinate point. So I'm going to take my original function, g of x equals x squared minus 10x minus 24. And I'm going to use my 5 and I'm going to plug in. G of 5 equals 5 squared minus 10 times 5 minus 24. 5 squared gives me 25. Negative 10 times 5 is negative 50 minus 24. And again, you can type this all into GeoGebra and your final answer should be negative 49 again. It's just a coincidence that it came out to be the same number as the last problem. It won't always be that way. So my y value is negative 49. And there's my vertex. Okay, my vertex is the point 5, negative 49. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Please make sure you take a look at the assignment. It's a problem just like this. Good luck. If you have questions, please don't be afraid to reach out.